Holy City Center Radio is episode 276, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. It's midweek here in the Holy City. I hope you are staying cool out there. It has been a little toasty. No surprise, it's July in Charleston, but I hope you're still making sure that you're all staying cool and staying safe out there in the heat. And enjoying whatever it is that you have been doing over these first few days. So halfway through the week, at least the work week as it were, and things are going well here. My family is here. My folks, as you know, have been here for a little bit. But joining them is my brother, sister-in-law, my niece and nephew. So we've got a packed house, and it's been a lot of fun having everybody here. We haven't really been able to do too much yet, at least in terms of anything that you all would find interesting, like going to a new restaurant or something, but been having a great time hanging out with each other. And when I'm busy working, they're having vacation. They're going to the beach, relaxing a little bit. And so it's been nice for them, I believe, and certainly been great for me. So today's episode, it's another interview. So as I mentioned in the last podcast on Monday, obviously a lot going on in the world specifically. And of course, locally, we have some stories as well. In Friday's episode, I will try to tackle as many of those local stories as I can. So just noting here at the top, yes, I'm aware, especially on the national level and specifically related to politics. Lots going on. I'm sure you're all sick of hearing opinions and talk about that anyway, though. There's plenty of people talking about that. As we all know with the internet, we're not short on finding opinions, that's for sure. But in any event, just noting it. We will get back to the news on Friday, but today we have another great interview, a nice break from the news, regardless of where you may fall as far as political alliances or feelings or thoughts on the latest news in the nation. This is just a nice way to try to forget it all for a little bit. Today's guest is a local poet whose name is Linda Joy Walder. Was so happy to speak with her. She had her first published work happen at the age of 60. And she talks about how it doesn't matter where you are in your life, what you have done, what you haven't done yet. A lot of times we think, at a certain age, sometimes even by the time you're, say, 25 years old, you're like, well, it's too late to start X, Y, and Z. And she talks about how, no, you can still follow passions and make changes in your career or, whatever, your life direction is going. You can make a change. And things could happen for you. That first collection of poetry is called Running Naked in the Snow. It was actually published by Marcus Amaker's Free Verse Press. If you're not familiar, Marcus was Charleston's first ever poet laureate. He has since stepped down from that position and been replaced, but he was the city's first ever and is also, just obviously a great poet in his own right. And has been trying to, through the Free Verse Festival and now Free Verse Press, just spread his love for poetry and the arts through all those. So very good chat that we had today. Be sure to check the link in the show notes, links, I should say, where you can find more information about the poetry collection as well as more information about Linda Joy Walder. And in addition to that, you can catch her at the Baxter Patrick James Island Library on August 3rd. She'll be reading featured works from her book, as well as introducing some new poems for a second poetry collection that she's currently working on. So you can catch her again at the James Island Library on August 3rd. That's a Saturday, so not a work day. You should be able to go over there and have, just give a little listen and enjoy listening to a local poet recite some of her work. So without any further delay, let's get into the interview now. And as promised, joining me now is local poet Linda Joy Walder. So excited to have her here. Linda, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm thrilled to do it. I really love Holy City Center and what you bring to our community, especially with the arts. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and we're going to dive into some of your work and a little bit of what you have coming up as well. But before we do that, if you could just let my listeners know a little bit about you, just so they have some background. Whatever you want to share, maybe where you're from or what brought you to Charleston, or if you're from here originally, just anything to kind of help people get a better idea of who you are as a person.
Yes, I'd love to. So I cannot believe it, but I have lived in Charleston 10 years, which shows how quickly time goes by. And I really have always written poetry, a lot of the time in my mind. But during COVID, and when we were all kind of sitting on our porches here or wherever we were sitting and at home, I just was really inspired to write, and I had just gone through the passing on of my husband. So I was grieving. I was sitting on the porch, and just poetry words came out of me that probably were dormant inside of me for so many years. And it was just a healing way for me to express not only grief, but also the joy of nature, sitting on the back porch and watching the natural world progress, and all kinds of other things of a lifetime, really. And the other thing about me, besides my poetry world and my writing world, is I am the founder and director of an over 20-year old now international foundation named the Daniel Jordan Fiddle Foundation, after my son, who also has passed on. But the foundation has continued in his honor and memory to serve adults diagnosed with autism. And we're doing that work around the country. And in fact, we're about to announce a project here in Charleston that I'm very excited about. So I'll keep you posted on that. But that's really, background about me, Christian.
Yeah, and I would definitely be happy to hear more about that project when it's time, and I'll be sure to share that as well. And I appreciate you giving some background. And you mentioned you've always, I'm sure, have been writing, whether it be poetry or otherwise, for a long time. But it seems you kind of just, as you mentioned, with everything that has been happening in your life, you dove back into it and became a published poet at the age of 60, which is not how it normally goes for folks. Can you tell me about how that all came to be?
Yeah, well, it's funny. We say 60, we say 50, we say 20, and I started thinking about that. And in a way, why do we even limit ourselves by number of years? Because while we're living and breathing, life is ever changing. So, yes, it happened 6 decades in, but I think everything happens with divine timing. And so it was the right time. And as with all of us, we're in different chapters, we're on different paths during our life. So it was the perfect time for me to use poetry and to express myself in a way that I believe I was born to do. So the timing has been and is wonderful.
That's awesome. Very cool. And that published work is called Running Naked in the Snow, which is a catchy, fun, interesting title. Certainly grabs your attention. Is there any backstory to that?
Yes, there is. And in fact, it's kind of my two worlds of autism and poetry kind of colliding, because the title is named for an incident that happened with my son, Danny, whose name is in honor and memory of the foundation. And he was 5 years old. It was a snowy day back in New Jersey, where we lived at the time, and I was going to help him and his little sister build a snow person. And I went inside to get some accessories for the snow person. And I looked outside, and there was my son taking off all his clothes and running naked in the snow. And I was like, oh my gosh, this child appreciated life so much. And it was just so jubilant and so invigorating. And And I thought one day in the back of my mind, even then, if I ever write a book, it's going to be entitled Running Naked in the Snow, because that's what poetry should do for us. It should take us out of the everyday and the expected, and let us be free to explore thoughts, explore emotions and experiences. So I thought it was the perfect title, and of course paying tribute to my son again, which I always feel blessed to do.
Oh, yes, of course. And so that's the title, and obviously there's several works inside. What else can you tell us about this poetry collection?
Well, I think it's a great way to expose people to how I work as a poet, which is there's variety. It's not just on one topic or one experience. There's many different experiences, and I like to think of my poetry in general as word pictures. So, there's a visual component when hopefully you're listening to the words. There's a lyrical component, and some of my poems are about nature. Some are about the human experience of experiences like grief and love and joy and sadness and anxiety. So it's all of these things that make each of us up as human beings, and hopefully one or more will resonate with a reader. And that's really my objective in sharing the poetry, is to have something that hits a chord for somebody, and in that way helping them through a common experience or elevating their life in some way. And that gives me great joy to do that.
And still staying on topic with this collection,
Yeah.
you're going to be actually doing a poetry reading here coming up pretty soon. What can you tell us about that? How can people, just all the details so people can come and listen?
Yes, I would love it. So, as you and I were joking before the podcast, um, the title Running Naked in the Snow could be a great reprieve from all the heat we're feeling here in Charleston right now.
Exactly.
So I hope that people will take a break from what they've been doing all summer and come inside to the Baxter Patrick Library on James Island. And I believe you'll have the address. I believe it's 1858 Grimble Road, and it's 3 o'clock on the 3rd of August. So nice synchronicity with 3-3. And basically, what I intend to do is a few things. I will definitely be sharing works from Running Naked in the Snow, but even more, I'm going to kind of experiment by sharing some of my latest works that will be in upcoming publications. And I kind of want to get the feel of what everybody there is thinking about. I love to get feedback. I love to see how, as I said, if a given work will touch somebody. And so I think it will be a bit interactive, I'm hoping. And of course, asking questions is always fine. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit with some new works and some works from Running Naked in the Snow, and and questions and answers, I guess, if I have the answer. And also, I just want to say too, some poets and are always out and about, which I think is great, and they're kind of performance artists. With me, I don't really see myself in that light. I'm more of just a person sharing her work, and a joint experience, but I'm not, performance oriented. But I think it's great when others are, but it's just not my vibe. So just to add that in also.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that certainly makes sense. And you kind of reference that you'll be incorporating some other works when you're doing this reading. Are you, you said for other publications, are you working on a second book just of your own collections?
I'm working actually, and again, it always starts marinating in one's mind. But I am currently working on one book that I hope to get out in the beginning of the new year, and it will be a combination of poetry essays and some backstory about my life. So it'll be, a whole mix of things rather than straight on poetry. And another work that I'm thinking about will be more about lyrical kind of poetry, haiku, and maybe in a specific theme, but that will come after. But I'm always writing and envisioning ways that I can share the work. And I think it's really, with poetry, yes, there is a certain impact in performance, but I think poetry is such a beautiful mode of expression because you can be at home, you can read a poem, and then, oh, that rhymes. Actually, you can be at home, you can read a poem, and you can absorb, it in your own time, in your own space, put the book down, and then pick it up, and maybe something else will occur to you. So that's what I love about poetry. It's a very intimate experience. So I like that. And I hope that my poems elicit an intimate experience for the reader as a co-participant, really.
In kind of circling back, we talked about how, you became published for the first time at age 60. And I kind of referenced how, most people believe, oh, you have to do X, Y, and Z by certain ages, or it's never going to happen for whatever reason. And obviously you were able to prove that wrong. Like, oh, you don't have to be published at a certain age. It can happen at any point. Do you have any advice or anything similar to anybody listening about, no matter what your age is, if you have a passion, pursue it. And, so any kind of advice around that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that, we're living, we're breathing, and every day I wake up, and it might sound corny, but I think it's so important to start your day with gratitude, because many people don't get the chance to open their eyes on a new day. So that is the first element. And I think when you live your life, and we've all had tough experiences, I referenced a few of my own, but I think that the purpose of life is to live and constantly be growing and experiencing life. But at the same moment, it doesn't have to be work. It should be joyful. It should be filled with wonder. And I don't think that ends really, because when you start letting that fade away and you put these restrictions on yourself, whether it's age or other things, I believe that you're stifling it. And, I think that stifling yourself. And I think this is one thing that I would like to share with your listeners that I have found to be quite helpful. Each day I try to have a quote, "This is my moment." So something that marks that day. And it could be a conversation, it could be doing some kind of work, it could be playing with your child or the neighbor's child, it could be anything at all, but that is marking the day. And for me, that keeps me present in today's moment, and it keeps me grateful for that moment. And I think when you live with gratitude, there are no limits of age or otherwise for any person.
Certainly makes sense, and very good advice for everybody listening. So for anyone who is interested in learning more about you, your works, what are the best ways for them to learn more or to purchase your poetry collection if they're interested?
Yes. So I have a web platform, and it's Linda J. Walder C, letter C.com, lindajwalderc.com. And on that web platform, you can also purchase my book and any future books and learn more about me. And every month or a few weeks, I post a new poem. I post a piece on creativity, and I post a piece on resiliency. And the creativity and resiliency are short essays. And I'm trying to inspire people to take maybe some of my thoughts and ideas and find their own superpowers of creativity, resiliency, and perhaps even writing themselves poetry or whatever they want to do, creating a painting or volunteering, whatever inspires them. So the web platform, also I'm on Instagram, Linda J. Walder C, and you can get my book that way. And of course, some local booksellers also have my book, including the Gibbs Museum of Art. And yeah, so those are the ways. And of course, you can just Google me, Linda Joy Walder, and you'll be able to access some information about my work and the book as well.
Fantastic. And before I let you go, is there anything we didn't talk about or anything I didn't ask you? And you have the moment now to go ahead and speak about anything you want if you feel there's anything we didn't cover that you feel is important.
Thank you, Christian. Well, I think you did a great job covering things. I just want to repeat that I will be on Saturday, August 3rd at 3 p.m. at the Baxter Patrick James Island Library. I hope you'll join me and get out of the heat and run naked in the snow, metaphorically, of course, with me. And we'll have a great time. And I think it's a fun activity for an afternoon. And hopefully you'll leave inspired and refreshed.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Christian. And thank you to all the listeners for being part of this podcast. I appreciate it.
And that'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Also need to thank Lindsay Marie Collins with LMC Soundsystem for producing this and every episode of Holy City Center Radio. And also a big thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every show. I'll be back with you all on Friday. I can't wait until then. But as always, good night and good luck.